Good morning. Today we will start with the history, chapter number 4 of class 8, that is tribals, Dikus, and the vision of a golden age. First, we should know who are tribals. Tribals are different from the mainstreams. They have their customs and rituals that were very different from those laid down by Brahmins, like such as their marriage customs are different, their dresses are different, their eating habits are different. And one of the best thing about tribals is they did not have the sharp social division which we have in our society. So there was somewhat equality among the tribals. And the other characteristic of tribes were they were born with a common ties of kinship. First, they have different customs and tradition. Second, no sharp social division. Bond with a common ties of kinship means uh, their ancestors was one. So they are born with a common tie of kinship. Now we look on who were Dikus. In the tribal society, anybody who is not from that region, from that locality, were termed as foreigners by the tribal people. So they were very afraid of the outside people. But here, Dikus were outsiders, but it refers to only Britishers, moneylanders, traders, landlords who exploited the tribals. They were termed as Dikus. Dikus are outsiders who have exploited tribal peoples. And the third is the vision of a golden age. It refers to that when the tribal peoples have their own land, they could manage their own land, they could administer their own land, they have their tribal chiefs, they use the barter system. They were living with very facility and were cut off from the mainstreams. That was the golden age में जब उन्हीं का राज था कोई आउटसाइडर्स उनको एक्सप्लॉइट नहीं कर रहा था जो फॉरेस्ट था दैट वाज देयर रिसोर्स कोई उस फॉरेस्ट पे उनकी जमीन से उनको नहीं निकाल रहा था तो वो उनका गोल्डन एज था बट व्हेन विद द कमिंग ऑफ द ब्रिटिश with applying the forest laws by the British जो उनका राज था दैट वाज टेकन बाय द ब्रिटिश पीपल तो जब ये अगेंस्ट द डिकूज जब रेवोल्यूशन करा था बिरसा मुंडा ने तब उसने यही याद दिलाया था कि हमारा जो गोल्डन एज था जो स्वर्ण काल था जब हम खुद राजा थे वो गोल्डन एज हमें वापस से लाना है और बिरसा राज हमें वापस से स्टैब्लिश करना है ओके नाउ द मेन चैप्टर इज स्टार्टेड फ्रॉम हियर वी नो द कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स ऑफ द ट्राइबल सोसाइटी नाउ we will look how did tribal groups live. Tribal people in different part of the country engage in the different types of varieties, but mainly जो उनकी लाइवलीहुड थी वो फॉरेस्ट से कंसर्न थी या तो कल्टीवेशन होता था या हर्डर्स थे या गैदरर्स या हंटर्स इस तरह की उनकी लिविंग होती थी सबसे पहले जो मेन था दैट वाज द शिफ्टिंग कल्टीवेशन some were shifting cultivators. As the name indicates, they were the cultivators who constantly in move. Shifting cultivation, that is done on a small patches of land, mostly in forest, because वहाँ पे forest में vegetation बहुत ज़्यादा होता था. So it was very difficult to cut all the trees. और उस समय शायद resource की इतनी कमी नहीं थी, इतनी value नहीं थी हमें. Tribal people were very backward at that time. So the cultivators cut the tree tops and burned the vegetation on the land to clear it for cultivation. Suppose this was a land और यहाँ पे there are the different vegetation. They cut the tree tops and burnt the whole vegetation, and so this land is clear for cultivation. Then जो उसकी ash होती है, they spread the ash from the fire, which contain potash, which is a good manure of soil. Then, instead of plowing the land, they skirted the seeds on the field. And when the crop was ready and harvested, they moved to another field, and that land was kept fallow for 3 or 4 years until the vegetation again come up. So it's a very great harm to the forest resource. But shifting cultivators, they used to do the shifting cultivation. There are the different names of the shifting cultivation, that is zooming, other name is slash and burn, and beaver. It is a term used in Madhya Pradesh for the shifting cultivation. And these shifting cultivators were found in the hilly and forested tracts of northeast and central India. Hilly and forested tracts of northeast and central India. Second livelihood, some were hunters and gatherers. Some tribal groups lived by hunting animals and gathering forest products. And they use collective hunting, not individuals are going for the hunting. They use collectively hunting, collectively gathering means there was no sharp division, and they lived in harmony. And they used the forest shrubs for medicinal purposes and sold forest produce in the local market. And by this, they commonly use the barter system, means exchange of goods. This led to, but many of them see some herded animals, like they were the pastoralists. It is the English term means herding animal and living by the animals or animal products. Many tribal groups lived by herding and rearing animals. They moved with their herds of cattle or sheep according to the season. For example, the one Gujars of the Punjab hills and the Labadis of Andhra Pradesh were cattle herders. One Gujar of the Bia were cattle herders. Some, like the Labadi, the Gaddis of Kulu, were shepherds. Some took to settled cultivation. Even before the 19th century, many from within the tribal groups had begun settling down and cultivating their fields in one place year after year instead of moving from place to place. And the British favored the settled cultivators instead of the shifting cultivators because it was very difficult for the British to control the shifting cultivators. So, the tribal groups who were settled down were considered as more civilized, and British favored that group. Like Gons and Santals, they have They become the saddle cultivators. Now we will study when the British came and they enforced their laws. So how did colonial rule or the British rule affect the travel lives? Before the arrival of the British, among the tribes there was one tribal chief who enjoyed a certain amount of economic power and had the right to administer and control their territories. They have their own police and decided on the local rules of land and forest management. मतलब ट्रैवल्स में से नेचुरली कोई ना कोई लीडर होता था तो ट्रैवल चीफ जो होते थे उनके पास बहुत पावर होती थी इकोनॉमिक पावर दे डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड द लैंड्स दे डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड द कल्टीवेशन दे मैनेज the administration they give justice मतलब like a raja they have their tribal chiefs the tribals do obey the tribal chiefs but with the coming of the British, with the arrival of the British, the tribal chiefs, their power has declined and it was taken by the British people. Second, what happened to the shifting cultivators? As I've told you, cattle grazing were easier to control and administer than people who were always on the move. And also to ensure regular revenue source, the British introduced land settlements like permanent settlement and vices, which I have told you earlier. Some peasants were declared landowners, like they were the landowners, and other were the tenants who were hired by the landowners. The tenants were to pay rent to the landowners, who in turn paid revenue to the state. So, somewhat shifting cultivation was declined. But the British effort to settle June cultivators was not very successful because there was a certain problem like other land milieu that was not fertile and so on. It was very difficult to grow that field. So, in somewhat protest, the British had to ultimately allow them the right to carry on shifting cultivation in only some parts of the forest. Now, forest laws and their impact. We will continue with the next chapter how the forest was divided into reserve, protected, and unclassed open field, and how they were not allowed to come in the reserved or in protected in only a certain with the certain permit. So in the next class we will study about the forest laws and their impact. Until then, good day.